Hello. Welcome to Vintage Key Studios. My name is Donna Summer, and I'm here in the workhouse at the moment picking oakum as a punishment. The master probably won't mind me giving this up for a couple of minutes because he's gone out, so maybe I'll get on with showing you the feature of today's video, which is the D&R ST1600 32-channel mixing console. Now you may wonder why I have a slightly blackened eye. I apologise for this. I did put a steak on it, but it slipped down into my mouth. The story behind it is I had a very temperamental singer in the other day called Louisa. You know what singers are like. She was going, I can't hear what I'm doing, up, and all this rubbish. Then she said, can I have a little bit of reverb on? So I said, okay. And I gave her this. Immediate black eye. Hello. So anyway, back to the desk. Before the D&R desk, we used to have a Hill Audio Concept 200 desk, which was really good actually, and it was, my favourite thing about it was the fact that it could catch fire on one channel, but all the other channels would carry on working. With this one, luckily this hasn't caught fire at all. This is a very good, it's been nicely maintained, this one. I should give you a bit of a history of D&R. They're a company that were formed, I believe, in the 70s in Holland, and they're still active now, and they make little mixers and things. This was the first inline mixer apparently ever designed and built in Europe, and it dates from 1978. It's got 32 channels of transformer balanced inputs in the microphone preamps, some very nice EQs. I'll just give you a bit of a rundown of what the channel strip is doing here. So we have the selector switch for whether or not it's coming from the microphone input or line input or remix input, which is basically tape from tape, the old-fashioned tape thing. Then you've got this thing here, which is a minus 20 dB or decibel pad, which is like an attenuator. Or it is an attenuator. It reduces the input signal by 20 dBs. Then you have the microphone input gain control. You've got this thing here, which is the phase flipper. So it'll either be in phase or out of phase. Well, not out of phase, but it's one half of the phase or the other half of the phase, and it switches it round. At the moment, when that's like that, any signal coming in that goes from plus to minus, and then plus to minus, will remain plus to minus. But if you flip it, the plus will actually come through the desk as a minus and then to a plus. So plus to minus in reality gets flipped here to minus to plus. And that is all done in this desk with the transformer, the input transformer, which the signal goes into the transformer on the primary winding, primary side, and is then induced through the transformer to the secondary winding, which has got the full plus and minus coming off of that. Then you've got the line level input, which is sort of self-explanatory. Then you've got this bit here, which is the EQ settings. So you've got a nice high EQ, which is, it says exactly what the setting is, but it's probably going to be something like 15K. Then you've got the mid EQ, which is between 300 Hertz and 10 kilohertz, with a plus minus 18 dB increase or decrease. Then for the lower mid section, you've got the 80 hertz to 1 kilohertz I think, or is that 1.6 kilohertz there, and similar gain control there. And then you've got the very low ones, which is basically like a kind of an all-encompassing low-end EQ. So you could actually just use the low and the high EQ, and it would still sound quite nice. The mids initially quite harsh, and in a second I'll give you a bit of a demonstration of that by speaking directly into a microphone. The first 16 channels on this are flippable between being a channel all in one thing or being a group control, which is quite useful, but I'll get to that in a minute. So then down here, so we've got the channel and group control flippers there. Here we've got the sync control, which was designed for the days of tape when you used to have like a sync signal coming from a tape recorder, and you could set it to various different the local or the master setting, and the master setting is controlled all the way down here by this button. So now I've switched that button on, the light that I just flipped off, so if you look there, and with my other hand I am switching it on and off, and you can see there, with it off nothing happens, and then with it on local, it's just, that means that it's just this individual channel is responding to the sync signal. I don't use the sync signal here because I'm not using a tape machine, and etc. And then we have the Q setting, which is like a kind of a stereo auxiliary mixer, useful for headphone sends and things like that. We've got the auxes 1 to 4, and they can be set either pre-fader or post-fader. Then we have the routing. It goes from 0 to 16, 0 to 15 there, because that's the left side of the routing, and 0 to 16 there for the right side of the routing. So if, for instance, you wanted to route this channel to group 1, which is over here. In fact, no, I'll do it here so it's easier to... So if you wanted to route channel 8 to group 7, all you have to do is put that onto number 7 there, and then if you go up here, if you put, this is channel 7, you put that into the group mode, then the input to this channel, when you bring the fader up, will now be coming out of this group channel here. All of the parts of the channel above the channel and group control still work as a channel, but down here is a group. So this will not affect any signal going into the top of it when it's in group mode. But when it's in channel mode, the whole thing is just a channel. So that's what it means when it's inline. So it's basically the channel like that with the flipper flipped to group is a channel up there by itself, and then a group setting there. And then you've also got the pan control from, you know, for stereo positioning placement, and you have a multi-track feed knob, which is, this is what I use mostly for everything. I don't tend to use the faders for very much unless I'm routing things and mixing stuff. You've got mute, and then solo, and then overload. Yes. So if I just get rid of that. So basically the way I've got this working is I've got all of the microphones connected to this internally, because there's no actual XLR plugs or anything in this. It was all done through EDAC connectors on the back, which are kind of like oblong shaped connectors with lots of little pins in, which are incredibly expensive to buy and the right pain to stick all the bits of bloody wire in. So I didn't bother with all that. I just cut them all off with a big pair of pliers or a big pair of shears, and then realised I didn't know which wire was which because they were all black. If you look along here, we've got the VU meters, standing for virtually useless. So that's for all of the inputs up to 24. We haven't got inputs for VUs for the 25 to 32, but it doesn't matter. I don't use those anyway. They're kind of a bit intermittent. These VUs here are for the auxiliary sends and the Q mix there. They've got the master output there, which you can see moving when I'm talking. I fitted these two in. There's these ppm meters. Came from an old BBC device I had, so I've connected them up. So they're basically being triggered by the same signal that's going into here. And they're running off a different power supply that's been fitted inside a cake tin. It's also got a master section. So we've got these flippy switches here, which will enable you to select different sources, as in not table sources, but audio sources. I put this monitor selector in because it didn't have one of those built in. So this will select between, at the moment I've got the large monitors, which are Rogers monitors, or they're called Nipro, but they're basically Rogers monitors. Rogers monitors, then I've got Yamaha NS10s and the old trusty Auratones, and they're sort of selectable from up there, although it was not a very good design of mine by putting it so far, because you can't reach it when you're sat down. We've got the master Q pots there, we've got the auxiliary pots there, we've got an oscillator here which was used to line tape machines up and meters up as well. And we've got a talkback mic there. Again, I don't really use all that stuff because I've got it all on the digital bits and pieces over there, which sort of works a bit easier, works a bit better. Then we've got the master monitor control, the volume control with the dim control and stereo to mono, and then it's got like a left to right flip there as well, and a mute switch, and then we've got a trim left and trim right, which is for the output of the master fader, which is always quite useful. And then as you can see along here, we've got the nice the D&R logo with the name of it, so D&R ST1600 Holland, in a rather nice font. I don't know what font that is. We've got a mysterious meter here and a meter here. That was actually part of the BBC one that I just stuck in there. It's not connected to anything. This isn't connected to anything either. I think it was maybe used as some sort of phase meter, but I haven't bothered with that. Oh, and there's also a picture of a lobster. And next to that, there is a sort of an Auratone-like little speaker on the side, which was included in the original design of the mixer basically it's the same idea as an Auratone, but that's not being used for anything at the moment. And then there's a lovely big patch bay. Now, I've had a hell of a job with this patch bay, because when I first was plugging things into it, owing to the age of the thing and the way that the plugs looked inside, I thought, well, they must be 1/4-inch jacks. So I just went with that and used 1/4-inch jacks. But I was having trouble with the interconnection with it, because it was like, it wasn't connecting properly, and it was all kind of like, it sounded very thin and weird. Then I thought, well, maybe it's not 1/4-inch jacks, maybe it's GPO plugs. So I got a load of GPO plugs, and for a little bit of time, and that did work a bit. But then I realised, when I actually had a good look under here, because this was all when my tummy was bad and I couldn't get under there, because you need to be like a car mechanic and go underneath it, which I'll show you in a minute, underneath the mixer. So I didn't know, I couldn't get under there to have a look, so I was sort of guessing. But what I worked out was that it was 1/4-inch jacks, and the reason why it wasn't working is because all of the inputs to the channels are all balanced, but everything else is unbalanced. But the way that they're wired was, it was wired up to the tip of the TRS, tip ring sleeve 1/4-inch jack, but there was nothing wired up to the ring, but there was to the sleeve. So the sleeve had a connection and the tip had a connection, but there was no ring connection. And that was causing problems with some of the equipment I had here, like mainly stuff with audio transformers going in. So the compressors and the one that I made, the Lobster and the tube core compressor, because half of the signal was going in from the tip, and then it was also taking the nothing coming off the ring, and that was actually going in as well, and it was causing like a kind of a very thin, weedy, horrible sound. So what I did to make it work is I discovered a thing called telescoping ground. And there'll be a diagram of telescoping ground here. And that is basically where you, from the unbalanced side, you connect the tip to the tip of the balanced connector, and then you connect the sleeve of the unbalanced connector, not to the sleeve of the balanced connector, but you don't connect that. You just connect the sleeve to the ring of the balanced connector. So if I just show you a balanced connector, there's an unbalanced connector there. Okay, that one. You see that? And there's a balanced connector there. So the way it's wired is the tip goes to the tip and the sleeve goes to the ring, but not the sleeve on there. And that works nicely with a balanced transformer based piece of audio equipment, like a professional audio equipment. Don't ask me why, but it just does. It only took me 5 years to work that out. So anyway, where did that go? Oh, I don't know where that went. I'll put that there. Let's just show you a little bit underneath this thing. Now I'm just going to put down my piece of ship's rope. Now underneath here, it's very dark. So if I put on a light, Right, welcome to the underside of the mixer. As you can see, there's lots and lots of very thick, what looks like garden wire connecting between each of the channel modules on here. And that's because that is how they're connected all up. Most mixers and things are all connected by tiny little pins, and then there's like a kind of a bus bar underneath it, and maybe some wiring. But this thing is connected just with these huge pieces of wire. And if you look here, this is the power supply part. The power supply in this thing is actually a 3-unit rack box, but it's only got the transformers in, and then all of the AC comes into the back of this mixer and then is rectified and turned into DC here, and then filtered with these capacitors here, and then it's all dispersed to the rest of the thing. It's a bit of a nightmare to work on, because if you wanted to take out one of the channels, you'd have to take 8 of them out, and you'd also have to cut all of these wires and then take the whole 8 channels out, work on it, and then put it back, and then resolder all of the wires back together. One of these days, when I've got 5 minutes or 5 days, I'm going to cut all of these wires and then attach some sort of connection, easy connection thing, so I can actually take the modules out and look at them. And as you can see, this has still got all the original capacitors in, the electrolytic capacitors in the power supply. They seem okay. There's no funny noises, and there's no bulging in any of them, so they should be all right for a bit anyway. But I will eventually. I've bought all the bits to replace it. And then so that's the underside. That's because I had my hernia operation. Right. Lastly, on this little videoette, I'm going to do a very quick demonstration of the EQ on this desk. You'll have to bear with me because some of the pots are a bit scratchy, but that's why I like them. Oh, don't look at my password. Right, so I'm putting my headphones on because I can't have it going through the speakers because it'll feed back. As you may have heard before, I was using the, wherever it is, that thing. Where is it? Is it there? That Rode mic thing. Rode me. But now we've switched over to the audio that is coming out of the desk, or out of the the channel number 16. It's going through a bit of a limiter. It's going through a limiter, but it's quite nice and clean and clear. If you can hear any whirring in the background, that's the heater down here. So that's the basic audio coming through channel 16, and then if I switch on the EQ is now switched on, and if I just sit here, will you lie with me and feed me scrambled egg on a spoon? That'll make a good song. Now, let's just have a little listen to the high EQ at the top. Hello, high EQ. How are you doing? I'm fine. You can hear that's nicely present, and you can have very good on cymbals, very good on hi-hats and stuff, and snakes. And then the cutting out the high EQ and then putting it back again. I'll put that back to where it was in the middle, and then I'll do the bass next. So the bass is, as you can hear, it's got a bit of a rumble on it. I mean, there's not masses of bass in my voice there, really. I suppose that's without it, and that's with it. I might play a bit of music in a minute that was recorded completely through the desk, and then you'll be able to hear how it all sounds. And then also we have the upper mid section. So if I just turn that up, well, that's with the level of the upper mid section turned up to about what is that? It's probably about 10 dB there. And then if I'll just move it around between the you'll be able to hear the scratchiness, but you can hear the overall sound of the different frequencies that it is moving between. When they're clean, or when I maybe replace some of these pots, they might work quite nicely as a phaser, like it used to in the Hill Audio one. But anyway, you can hear the different things. Then obviously there's the removal of those frequencies as well. Again, it's a bit scratchy, but useful for just going in and EQing stuff where you don't have to keep moving the pot around. So there we go. I tend not to EQ much things. I just record stuff, and then you get it good sounding in the room, and then it usually sounds good. Generally, you don't have to mess around with EQ. Maybe just add a bit of top to stuff sometimes. But anyway, maybe a bit of bottom. So here we have the lower mid now in boost mode, and you can hear that sort of not quite so extreme as the upper mid one, but it's got different tones as you move it through the frequency band there. And then if I remove all the frequencies from there, that is like a notch filter going through and removing those notchy bits. Anyway, quite a nice effective EQ, and again, I don't tend to use lots of EQ on recordings unless you want a particular sound. Obviously, if you want to kind of have like a very thin sound, then that's a good thing. But when I first started recording, I used to record everything and EQ it as I recorded it, and but I was working with like very kind of basic machines and stuff, but that used to work quite well actually. So saying that, maybe I do EQ things. So forget everything I just said. Do what you like. Anyway, I'm off to nurse my black eye. I'm off also to have a good play around with the Behringer Odyssey here, which I've had for ages, and I'm supposed to be doing a video on it, and I keep forgetting to. Well, I keep having a go at it and learning it, and then forgetting it, because it's quite there's quite a lot going on. See, it's got some dust on it, so it needs to be sorted out, and I need to have a go. But that'll be the next thing to do, based on the famous ARP Odyssey. And the reason why I bought it was because of listening to Kraftwerk. Anyway, thank you very much, generally everybody, for watching, but thank you extremely very much to the Vintage Keymasters who are supporting our channel. We are eternally grateful. Lots more videos to come, and we're currently looking for anyone who has anything specifically interesting they would like a video on, with a view to me possibly travelling there to have a go on it. Because obviously people want me to do videos on things that I haven't got. And I can't just go out and buy like any old thing. So if you happen to have something interesting, and you live fairly locally to where we are, then let us know, because it might be quite nice to do like a on-location thing. Similarly, if you have anything that you don't want anymore, like a hulking great organ, like I do, that you want to get rid of, then give us a call. Anyway, take good care, and I will see you last week. Good night.